Doc Ock, the good doctor. Doc Ock has been adapted a plethora of times, and in these adaptations, there's really only two main differences between the Doc Ocks you'll see in any adaptation. The difference is, did Otto Octavius have a connection with Peter Parker prior to them meeting as Spider-Man and Doc Ock? Or did Spider-Man and Doc Ock just build their relationship themselves? This change is really the big change you'll see between Doc Ock adaptations. Sure, there's design changes, of course, and choices to be made that'll make differences between the characters, but the main one you see is, did Peter Parker and Otto Octavius meet prior to Spider-Man and Doc Ock meeting? Now, there's only 3 adaptations that I really know of that focus on the connection between Peter Parker and Otto Octavius prior to Spider-Man and Doc Ock. These adaptations being the 90s Spider-Man show, Insomniac Spider-Man video game, and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. He meets Doc Ock prior to Doc Ock becoming Doc Ock. You know, he's just Otto at the time. And all 3 of these stories that feature this connection, they use it to shape the dynamic between their Spider-Man and their Doc Ock. Compare and contrast that to like the 2000s video game Spectacular Spider-Man or Ultimate Spider-Man, among others, and these guys built their connection just from Spider-Man and Doc Ock fighting each other. The point of this video is to try and figure out which of these 2 styles of adapting Doc Ock is truly the better one. But before we jump into this video, I need you all to comment down below which one you prefer. Do you prefer when Peter Parker and Doc Ock know each other and have a connection with one another? Or do you prefer when Spider-Man and Doc Ock just build that connection themselves, when they meet on the job together? Which of these takes do you think is the best way to take the character? Y'all let me know down below. Enjoy the good doctor.
Treachery!
First and final warning.
I can't let you and Mrs. Hardy take all the credit for my invention.
It won't do any good to call for help. The nullifier is mine.
Of course. Easy now. Butterfingers.
So there's 2 types of Doc Ocks, right? There's a Doc Ock who made the connection with Peter, and there's a Doc Ock who made the connection with Spider-Man. You can see that there's a lot more adaptations of Doc Ock meeting Spider-Man first, rather than Peter Parker and Doc Ock having that connection. I mean, that's the thing in the comics anyways, right? Spider-Man meets Doc Ock for the first time in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 3. He didn't know Peter Parker. He just finds Spider-Man, the 2 get to fighting one another, and from then on, their relationship was built through years of fighting. Like, that's how they built a relationship with each other in 616 in the comics. It was just from scrapping with each other. I mean, from scrapping with each other a lot. Doc Ock hated Spider-Man so much he assembled a literal squad of 6 haters to kill Spider-Man. Doc Ock would go on and date Aunt May, nearly marrying her. Doc Ock found Spider-Man poisoned by the owl. Doc Ock nurses him back to health because he wants to be the one to take Spider-Man down. Smooches, mwah. Doc Ock even managed to switch his body with Spider-Man and become the Peter Parker, and live as a superior Spider-Man for a bit. The 2 have had a crazy history together, and yet they never had a personal connection prior to fighting one another in Amazing Spider-Man issue 3. No flashback connection or anything. In 616, the comic continuity, Spider-Man and Doc Ock built their relationship strictly through their battles and what would become of them. However, that doesn't make the grouping of Doc Ocks who knew Peter Parker and having a personal connection with Peter Parker bad. I mean, look at the 3 examples of the Doc Ocks who knew Peter Parker prior to them fighting Spider-Man. You could literally make a case that all 3 of these Doc Ocks are the 3 best Doc Ocks ever adapted. I'm not even exaggerating. Look at these guys. Who doesn't love the 90s Doc Ock? Who doesn't love Insomniac's Doc Ock? Who doesn't love Alfred Molina's Doc Ock? All of these are incredibly well done. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into all 3 so we can really get a better understanding of how you can really use the Peter and Otto relationship to progress the story forwards. The first ever adaptation to show Otto and Peter have a connection with one another actually happens to be the 90s Spider-Man show. This show is revolutionary. In this show, we get Peter meeting Otto at a science camp when Peter was a child. But in present day, Doc Ock breaks into Felicia Hardy's residence prior to Peter being able to take Felicia out on a date, and he kidnaps Felicia looking for a ransom. Peter finds out that Otto Octavius, his old science camp teacher, who once inspired him, is the man who kidnapped Felicia. Peter then uses this connection to get closer to Doc Ock and inevitably free Felicia and save the day. This is the first time Doc Ock is shown having a connection with Peter Parker instead of Spider-Man. And in this show, it's done very well in my opinion. It's done to show that Spider-Man may not be able to help unilaterally all the time, but sometimes Peter Parker can. The show never had Doc Ock find out Peter Parker is Spider-Man, so you don't get like that massive reveal of turmoil. But I mean, that's really no one else's fault but the show's Doc Ock. Doc Ock literally sees Spider-Man, he unmasks him, and he sees Peter Parker underneath, and then he proceeds to convince the rest of the Sinister Six that this guy can't possibly be Spider-Man. He was a bumbling, fumbling poo. How could he be Spider-Man with that when he's such a klutz?
Your mind is as empty as that fishbowl you covered with. Can you not see the truth? He is not Spider-Man.
I'm not?
It's like, you are a total goober, because he's totally Spider-Man, Doc. But either way, they still use the personal connection because Doc Ock actually uses Aunt May to get closer to Peter, knowing that Peter and Spider-Man have a connection with one another. So it's not without consequences. They do in fact use the connection, not only the first time with Peter trying to make the connection with Doc Ock, talk him down with Felicia, but again later on in the Sinister Six episode when Doc Ock uses Aunt May to lure out Peter when he wants to lure out Spider-Man. Insomniac also did this pretty similarly. In the Insomniac video game, we actually see that Otto Octavius is someone who mentored Peter Parker, and the two actually freaking worked together.
You started without me.
The grant committee's director will be here soon. It's fine, Parker. I invented this equipment. I think I can handle it.
As you play the game, you go in and out of the lab, and you can find Doc Ock and see him slowly degrade into a villain. Slowly, he's losing it, and he's going off the deep end. Norman Osborn's pushing him too far. Things aren't working. His own inabilities to not be able to do stuff, all of it put together is making him into a bad guy.
Speak of the devil. Norman, what do you think you're doing?
The grant agreement you signed has strict safety provisions.
Damn it! This is all your fault, Norman, you son of a... It's time to show the world what we've done.
Otto, the neural web isn't isolating your motor neurons. It could be affecting other parts of your brain, your inhibitions, your mood. I just think we need some more testing.
We've done enough!
We're all safer now than we have ever been.
Liar!
You want me to beg? Not gonna happen!
The world will know the truth before they mop you off the pavement.
Slowly, he does lose it, and it's painful to watch, I'm not gonna lie. But it's also so great. It's so well done. You're just sitting there like, no, Doc, no, don't go down that road. To make matters worse, Doc Ock also knows Peter is Spider-Man. He didn't want to tell Peter, though. This leads to one of the best moments in Spider-Man's mythos in literally any adaptation ever. I love the scene with Spider-Man raging out against Doc Ock. It's so fire. I love this interaction on the roof as Peter Parker realizes that Doc Ock damn near killed Peter as well as Peter's loved ones with a massive plague infection thingy. I mean, he actually did kill Aunt May, but at the time of this, fighting, shouting match between Peter and Doc, Aunt May was still alive.
You knew. I won't let you win. This means too much to me.
Not more than it means to me!
But this scene, man, it's freaking peak. The emotion that Yuri Lowenthal puts forth, amazingly done. It's amazing. And the last time we get to hear about Doc Ock's personal connection with Peter Parker is in the Sam Raimi universe with Alfred Molina. Otto meets Peter as a student in university. Peter's already Spider-Man, however, Otto isn't Doc Ock yet. The two have great rapport with one another, but when Doc Ock fuses with his arms, his AI chip gets fried, and this sends him off the deep end, and then Spider-Man and Doc Ock go back and forth until they finally get to fight again in the climax where Spider-Man does best Doc Ock. However, the self-sustaining energy machine Doc Ock created had gone too far out of control, and it looked like it was going to suck in all of New York City and destroy the city. Spider-Man recognizes that he can't stop it all alone, and he needs Otto's help, so he tries to appeal to Otto's humanity. He takes off his mask and Otto immediately recognizes him. He even says the line that gets thrown around ironically because no one realizes just how much stuff Peter Parker does.
Peter Parker. Brilliant but lazy.
Peter manages to reason with Otto, and Otto actually kills himself in order to protect the city and stop the reactor. This is yet another brilliant way to show a connection between Peter and Otto and using it in a climactic part. The way Insomniac did it was to show off this intense moment before a final battle, which is great. And then the way that Sam Raimi does it is to show Peter appeal to his villain's humanity so that he can help save the city as well. Both of them are phenomenal, and they're both opposites of each other in the way they show the connection between Doc Ock and Peter Parker and what it relates in the climax of the entirety of the show and or video game and or movie. However, I do think there's something to be said about showing Doc Ock build his connection with Spider-Man through battling one another. Pretty much every other version of Doc Ock is adapted like this to my knowledge. But I want to talk about the Ultimate Spider-Man show and Spectacular Spider-Man specifically. In both of these shows, you get to see Doc Ock really go on a whole ass arc. In Ultimate Spider-Man, the character goes through hell, like paralyzed until he finally gets his own body, and it looks more like the comics, through a boatload of shenanigans, all while fighting and tormenting Spider-Man. The finale of the show literally has Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock and his Sinister Six to end the literal show. This is done without any connections. This Doc Ock did not know Peter Parker prior to him being Spider-Man. It just was, they just didn't like each other, and it grows throughout the show. The same goes for Spectacular Spider-Man as well.
I've been good!
This Doc Ock starts off as a more benevolent person before he gets fused with his arms and again goes off the rails. Spider-Man then meets him, and the two almost immediately start fighting. Doc Ock literally tries to kill him right off rip. Spider-Man would then beat Doc Ock, but then Doc Ock engineers a plan to form the Sinister Six to kill Spider-Man after he breaks out of jail. After being thwarted again, Doc Ock would hatch another plan as the master planner, nearly getting access to nuclear launch codes. Sadly for his sake, he was again thwarted by Spider-Man. He was so frustrated he blows up his own underwater base in an attempt to sink Spider-Man down with it. Yet again, this is through pure hatred. This Doc Ock has no love for Peter or Spider-Man. If he could, he would kill him. And I think that's so good for the character and their relationship that's dynamic. For me, at least. I just find that so interesting that they build a relationship that's like a relationship, especially in the comics, just through fighting, right? I think the moment that really tops that off, that we talked about briefly before, was when Doc Ock saves Spider-Man from the Owl's poison, because he believes that Spider-Man and himself are destined to dance with each other in their battle between good and evil forever. Like, that's some real hater shit. And it's not like he knows this man. He's just like, you know, you thwarted me so much, you know, I really think we're supposed to fight each other forever. And like, I just think that's so awesome that like just strictly fighting Spider-Man leaves that much of an impression on Doc Ock. To me, both sides have their merit in terms of how you should tell a Doc Ock story. I know that the comics say that Doc Ock and Spider-Man meet and like Peter Parker never met Otto Octavius, but the three godlike adaptations we've talked about and I showed you today, they get pretty emotional when you have Peter and Otto have a connection with one another, which can lead to better storytelling than just punches and kicking flying around to beat a bad guy. You can really do either. There is no definitive way to say which is better or worse. But I will say personally which one I do prefer. If I got to have my choice, my favorite way to adapt a character is by having him fight Spider-Man and build his rapport with Spider-Man. I think the Peter Parker connection is great, and the way Insomniac, the 90s, and Sam Raimi all did it is phenomenal. But there's just something to say about having Spider-Man beat the brakes off somebody so badly they just can't get over him. You know, there's no inner connection. There's no inner like, oh man, Peter Parker, I don't want to do bad stuff to you. It's just like, Spider-Man fucking sucks. I'm gonna kill him. Like, I'm gonna kill him. And I love that Doc Ock feels that way strictly because he knows Spider-Man, you know? Obviously, he learns who Peter Parker is through the years. You know, he's been around for 70, 80 years. He even becomes Superior Spider-Man in Peter Parker's body. So he knows who Peter Parker is. But the connection is built through Spider-Man and Doc Ock just strictly fighting one another. And I love it, man. For me, that's the way I prefer it. Because honestly, when Doc Ock is shown off like mentoring really anybody, it doesn't even have to be Peter Parker. If he's shown off mentoring anybody at all and then becomes Doc Ock and goes down the villain route, it comes off as more like a tragic story. But in reality, he's just a bad dude. In 616, it's not like an AI chip was fried and then that turned him into a bad dude. He just wasn't a good person. He had a terrible upbringing and he just wasn't a good guy. Honestly, none of the Doc Ock adaptations really have that specifically because at Spectacular Spider-Man, you know, he gets fried into being a bad version of himself. And then the Ultimate Spider-Man is really just a tragic character. You know, like I said, he starts off like paralyzed. It's pretty brutal. But either way, that's how I would adapt it personally if I get to choose. I think the 2000s Doc Ock is kind of like this, but it's not necessarily focused on hating Spider-Man so much as Doc Ock's just trying to, you know, complete his goal and take over the city with symbiotes. It's a whole random ass weird thing, but I love Doc Ock, man. I really do. All in all, there's really no wrong way to do it, in my opinion. Whether you like the personal connection that Sam Raimi, 90s, and Insomniac Doc Ock did, or you like it when Spider-Man builds his rapport with Doc Ock strictly from beating the brakes off of him. I honestly think they're all great ways to adapt Doc Ock. If there's one thing I think we could all look forward to for future Spider-Man adaptation, including Doc Ock, it's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
This is not ideal.
Hands up, Doc.
Well, you asked.
I may not be the most positive on your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I know I've been a little inflammatory towards it over the timeline of it being announced and it coming out. I liked it. I think it's all right. I think it's solid. I already ranked it, I think, as like the 4th fourth worst Spider-Man show of all time, but it has room to grow or change. But the Doc Ock in this show, in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the little we've seen of him already feels like one of my favorite Doc Ocks. He's so groovy. He's so fun. The way he moves and has like a good time, the way he's moving doing villainy, I like that a lot. The way he's like the bad guy behind everything who's setting up people's evilness and like giving them tech and stuff, I like that a lot. We just don't really have that Spider-Man connection yet, but it's still super early. We're on season 1. It just ended. Season 2 is supposed to be coming out next year. If there's anything in this show I'm excited for, it's Doc Ock. And I want to see Doc Ock just grow to hate Spider-Man and just like, can't stand him, can't stand Spider-Man kind of vibes. But all in all, Doc Ock, you can adapt him pretty much how you like with the connection or without the connection, as long as him and Spider-Man have like that connection with one another, because they should have a connection. That's one of Spider-Man's arch nemesis. As long as there is some connection to each other, I think it's a fire adaptation, or at least I think on a baseline standard, that's a fire ground to start on. That's pretty much it for me in this video, though. If you enjoy this video, you should like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought down below. If you have the means, you should support me on Patreon. If you want to talk to me more, I got a Discord. You can hit me up on Discord. I'll put the link in the description down below. But I think that's about it for me. I don't know if I really have anything else to talk about. Nah, that's it. Dunk out. Peace.